Welcome to Warfighter Advance, Coming Home at Last, a podcast by and for veterans. Warfighter Advance is an organization whose mission is the successful reintegration of every warfighter. Hi, I'm Michael Arndt, a Vietnam combat veteran and a member of Warfighter Advance. Welcome to the Warfighter Advance podcast, Coming Home at Last. Our guest today is Lorraine Tuemler. Lorraine is an alumna of the Warfighter program, and she currently is also a mentor and part of the administrative staff. Welcome, Lorraine.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, Lorraine, your background and your entrance to Warfighter Advance is rather unique because of your military background. I wonder if you'd talk about that.
Yes, so I served 6 years with the Irish Army, also known as Irish Defence Forces. 4 years was with the 3rd Battalion Infantry Unit. I served a deployment in southern Lebanon with them. And then my second deployment was as a military police person in Sarajevo, Bosnia, under NATO.
And as part of that deployment under NATO, you had an experience that ultimately led you to Warfighter. I wonder if you'd share that with us.
Yes, so I was in military police and we were in Sarajevo doing a 6-month deployment. And our job was doing security of the bases and around the city, just military police work. We did 12-hour shifts when we were on, and one particular day during a 12-hour shift, we got a phone call when I was back at the head base that a civilian, a local man, wanted to hand in a box of ordnance. And I turned around and I was up at the main office and I told my partner, "It's okay, I got it, I'll go down." So I headed out the main gate and down along the fence line and waited for this person to show up. When I got there, there was no one there. I remember thinking that was strange. Thought maybe the EOD team or somebody would be there. But then I realized, okay, I guess I'm handling this, so that's fine, I got this. Then my partner radioed me and I found out that the individual had gone to the wrong gate and was now en route to where I was now at. So I stood there and within a few seconds in the distance, I saw a local Bosnian man coming towards me carrying a wooden box. So obviously I knew this is who I'm waiting for. And when he came up to me, he was smiling and he seemed nice and he hadn't much, his English wasn't great, but he could understand me. So I remember thinking, okay, we were standing at a sandbag area where the ordnance was going to go. And I remember asking him, I looked in his box and I asked him, would he please place it on the floor, on the ground where the sandbag area was. I remember looking in the box and there was 6 to 8 landmines. On top of that was a pistol. And on top of that was a broken RPG round. The fins were broken. Down the middle of the RPG was a very large crack. But I had already asked him to place it in the sandbag area. But something told me inside something was not right with this whole situation. And that did not look good to me. So after instructing him to put it down, the last thing I remember is looking at the box. And after that, there was nothing. It was pitch black. My whole body was gone numb. Or out of the blue, there was just such loud ringing in my ears. And I knew at that stage, this has gone horribly wrong. And the box has exploded. And because I was so numb and everything was black and I couldn't see, I just thought I really thought I had died. I didn't know if I was alive or dead. I didn't know what to do because I had no feelings. I couldn't see anything. And after about a minute, I remember, it felt like a minute, but maybe just seconds. I remember raising my hands up, and as the darkness, a little bit of light crept in, and I could see the outline of my hands. And for some reason, that was a signal letting me know I was alive. I can now physically see some part of my body, so I am still here. And I was so thrilled. I remember thinking, okay, the situation isn't as bad. I'm okay. Everything's okay. We're good. So I remember then being able to force myself to walk. And I walked a few steps, and then I was coming out of what would have been that dust cloud created from the explosion. And I thought, this is okay. Everything's okay. And as I walked a bit further and got out of that dust cloud and I started to see daylight again, the next thing I saw was that local young Bosnian man who came to me just a split second ago smiling, right in front of me, all mangled on the pavement. He had been decapitated. He was just not even human-like anymore. And I remember thinking, how could you be so stupid? How did you think that this was okay? That you were okay, now he's okay, the situation's okay. And I remember instantly, it just didn't make sense, but instantly in my head I thought, I need to get out of here because I need to get back to my office. They need to know what's going on. I need to report it. And I just walked away. I started walking back towards the checkpoint to go in the main gate. And there I met another fellow Irish MP who had come down after they heard the explosion to help. And he walked me back to another post where I sat there and waited for an ambulance to arrive. I did get shrapnel injuries to my legs. I lost some eyesight. My hearing had been damaged at that time. And from there I was transported to a German medevac hospital where I stayed for a week. I went home to Ireland and I was back home for about 3 weeks. And I thought, okay, my injuries are superficial, you know, I had this awful desire. I need to go back. I had to get back out there. I don't know why, but I just felt I needed to be there. I needed to finish this tour of duty. I was there with my comrades. We all loved one another. We looked out for one another. So I just had to go back. So I did. I went back, and the whole time I was there, one day ran into the next. I wasn't sleeping. I was so extremely cautious of everything. I was nervous every time we went out. If I saw danger, it was around every corner. So anyway, I finished my deployment and I went back to Ireland. I went back to my unit. And when I got back to my unit, I noticed my officer in charge was treating me extremely different than everybody else. I didn't know what I'd already felt guilty enough. I had all this shame and felt like I should have died then too, that this individual died while I was supposed to be handling a situation. But my officer, not that he needed to, but never even asked, how are you doing? If he had once stopped and said, how are you doing? It would have made the world a difference. But instead, he seemed to single me out and berate me and made me feel less than. At a time when I was the lowest of the low and in a really bad situation. A lot of stuff I was keeping in, but I was struggling majorly inside. I remember going down to the local hospital, the military hospital on our base, and the doctor that was seeing me knew I was struggling, and she asked me if I'd anything crazy or major coming up that I had to worry about. And at the time, I did not. It was just a regular shift, regular duty back home in Ireland. And I just happened to mention, well, the only thing out of the ordinary is I have my yearly PT test coming up. So she said, well, let's just put that on the table and forget about that. She goes, how about we'll put that off for a few months? And I knew she was just thinking, I'm going to take anything that may stress her, I'm going to remove it. So that's one less thing she has to worry about. So I was okay with that. I thought, okay, that's fine. I went back to my unit and I was called into his office, and he wanted to know how my medical appointment went and what the doctor said. So I explained to him what had happened, and he was enraged. He was just furiated over the fact that I told him I was being told I did not need to do my PT test right now. He was getting ready to eat his lunch at his desk, and excuse my language, but he screamed at the top of his lungs and was slamming the table with his fists. And he started saying, "You better get your fucking arse back down to that fucking hospital. And I want that on this goddamn desk before I'm fucking finished eating this lunch." I turned to walk out the door, and I felt so small. It's so unimportant. Actually, and walking out the door, he burst out laughing. And I turned around and looked at him laughing. And he said, I was told all your injuries were superficial anyway. But I remember walking out the door and getting to the hospital and trying to compose myself because I was crying so bad once I got out of his office. And I thought, oh God, I have to go in there now and ask for this in writing. And I was on a time limit and I had to get right back to him. So anyway, but I remember even thinking on the drive, he's no clue how I'm dealing mentally or emotionally. He couldn't care less how emotionally I'm feeling. So yes, I'm back at work. Yes, I'm doing what I need to do. I'm trying to be a good soldier. But I was falling apart on the inside. So the accident, even as horrific as it was, I have such a great family and I knew I could get through it. I said, I'll eventually get over this. I can live with this. I'll get through it. But his betrayal was like cutting somebody with a knife. In the battalion, the infantry unit, we were always told, it's the buddy-buddy system. We've always got one another's backs. You're there for your buddy, your comrade. You would do anything. If someone's down, you get them back up. This was not my training. This is not what I thought the military was about and what was ingrained in us in boot camp and throughout my years in the battalion. And I remember thinking that day, I don't want any part of this. If this is how they're going to treat their soldiers, I don't want to be involved anymore. And it broke my heart because I loved what I was doing. I was a young, independent woman. I felt like I was almost on top of the world. I had 2 deployments, the Lebanon, I had Bosnia under my belt. At that time, I wanted to keep going and do more deployments. But after that encounter and his treatment of me over the months when I came back, I was done. I had lost so much faith in the hierarchy, and he's on a leadership level. To think that he would treat me or anybody else that way, I was done. I didn't want to have anything else to do with it.
So what happened when you left the Irish Army?
So while I was in Bosnia, I did meet my husband. My husband today, he was deployed there also. He was a combat photographer with the US Navy. And 2 years after Bosnia, we ended up getting married and I moved to America. But now my role had suddenly changed. I am now a military wife, and no fault to his, but I saw his career came first. If he got deployed, I had to be the one holding down the fort. If he had anything to go and do, it was his career. So I felt like I was following along, supporting him now. And the whole adjustment and everything, I just decided what happened in Bosnia, what happened back with my unit, with my officer. I thought, okay, put that in that safe, locked the key and took it away. That's gone. It doesn't get revisited. Then we got stationed in Gitmo very shortly after that in Guantanamo Bay. And everything was very intense down there too. So I almost felt, wow, I'm a military wife, but I almost feel almost militant-like down there as a wife. And I had our first daughter down there. So then life happened, and now I'm a mom, and I'm taking care of my daughter. And then I eventually, back in America, I had my second daughter. So it was all about my role had changed. I'm a wife, I'm, a mom to these girls, and I'm going to try to support my husband in whatever way I can in his career. But then, years later, it was like my world was starting to fall apart again. I was having nothing but awful back pain, neck pain. I seemed to be going down this deep hole that I could not come out of. I couldn't understand why. And the more I hurt physically, the more the memories start to surface again. And I was angry. I'm now a grown woman with 2 girls. I'm a wife, and I'm looking back at everything and realizing it's all so wrong. But it was not, and I still felt almost handcuffed, or there was nothing I could do about it. And I felt like just a shell of myself. I was on medications. I was on Oxycodone, Lyrica, Cymbalta. They were giving me Rimaron to sleep. They were on other muscle relaxants, just different stuff down through the years. And I just didn't identify with myself. I didn't know who I was. So I went to the base clinic and met with a doctor and told him I'm in so much pain. I'm not sleeping at night. I'm on all these pills. What's going on? There's something wrong with me. And I broke down crying in his office. He brought me straight across the hallway to a therapist. And that was where the light at the end of the tunnel finally came. She introduced me to Commander Mary Veaton. And she said, I think she'll be a really good fit for you. I think you need to see and speak to this doctor. So I did. And my very first meeting with Commander Veaton, she told me all about Warfighter. And I remember thinking, how can I go to this program? She kept inviting me. She said, I think you'll be a good fit. I think you will like it. And all I kept thinking was, I'm an Irish soldier, years out, now married. I'm not going to fit in there. These are all American soldiers. What has my story got anything to compare with these people and what they've gone through and their experience? But I decided to go. And I came to Warfighter for the 7-day program. And my life changed. It was the first time in 20-something years that I finally felt I fit in somewhere. That I was not different. I'm not broken anymore. I have problems, but these people get me and they understand me and they accept me. And they all have their struggles too. And we bonded, and the camaraderie at Warfighter was just unmatched. I finally could talk about my experience, and I knew these people understood, and they had empathy and could give me a place to be and feel at peace. So Warfighter gave me a family. I now have, I consider, brothers and sisters that I can call on when I need help and when I'm struggling. And I'm so grateful for this program.
And now you're back with the program,
yes,
acting as a mentor to other veterans in the
yes,
program and administrative assistant for the program. So tell me why.
So when I came through my 7-day program, like I said, the main thing I felt was I am not broken and I'm not alone. And for years, that's all I felt. So I feel now, if I can make one veteran feel even 50% what I felt walking out the doors at the end of this program, it is so worth it. Because during my program, not only did I get so much healing, but the first day after I arrived, we were all nervous. All the other participants were on edge. We didn't know what to expect. And I saw the healing in them and their faces light up and come alive. And by the end of the week, we were just so close. And it was like a weight had been lifted off so many of our shoulders that I thought, I have got to keep coming back to be part of this organization because it is so needed. And there's so many veterans and first responders out there suffering alone who feel they're broken. And they're not broken. And they have a family here. And we will do what we can to help them, to improve their life and give them that sense of camaraderie and family again.
Well, thank you, Lorraine, for your story, and especially thank you for your contributions to Warfighter Advance.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the Warfighter Advance Coming Home at Last podcast. Warfighter Advance envisions a world where warfighters are fully restored through a non-medical process. To achieve that vision, Warfighter Advance sponsors 6 7-day training sessions each year to which veterans and active duty service members can apply, and for no cost to the warfighter. If you or those you know are struggling with issues related to reintegration, please contact us through our website. We are dedicated to lead the way so that every warfighter has the information, tools, and support they need to successfully reintegrate. Until next time, this is Michael Arndt on behalf of Warfighter Advance.